When autumn rolls around, I love eating a lot of food that has pumpkin in it. In this video, I'm going to show you guys 4 savory pumpkin recipes that are perfect for autumn that you can make with your own sugar pie pumpkins. Coming up. First, if you haven't already seen my video on how to roast and puree your own pumpkins, check out that video in the card above and in the video description below. For these recipes, you do want to use fresh pumpkin because we will be using cubed pumpkin as well as pumpkin puree. So as you can see here, I've roasted these pumpkins. You take off the skin and you can dice them and have roast diced pumpkin, or you can puree them in a food processor and have pumpkin puree. As I said, these recipes will be using both. So watch that video if you haven't already. First, I'm going to show you guys my husband's favorite Thai dish, pumpkin red curry with duck. So these are some dried bird's eye chilies, 5 to be exact, and I'm just putting some boiling water and covering them to steam for about half hour to an hour so that they will be soft. And these are some coriander seeds that I'm toasting, and then I'm going to grind them in a spice grinder along with some black peppercorns. And this is going to go in our red curry paste. I am not using the jarred stuff because that stuff is crap. Now I can do better than that. So here are some fresh bird's eye chilies, and there's 5 of them, and I've roughly chopped them and put them in there. And this is lemongrass. We only want the white part, and I'm going to bash it with the side of my knife to extract the oils. This is extremely fibrous, and you might think to yourself, oh, the food processor can just chop it. No, it really can't, especially if you have a cheaper food processor like I do. So to help it along, you really need to mince it quite finely. This stuff is so fibrous, and it's just not at all pleasant to chomp pieces of it, so you really want to make sure it's pureed well. Now this, my friends, is galanga. In most recipes for red curry paste and Thai food that I've seen from white people, they substitute this with ginger, and that is just wrong, okay? Galanga is very, very unique and special. In fact, I'd say it's closer to lemongrass in flavor than ginger, so do not use ginger, use galangal. If you cannot find it fresh like this, I understand it's a pretty rare ingredient. Try to find it frozen, and if you can't find it frozen, I'd say the best substitute probably is just more lemongrass, which you can usually find at most regular grocery stores. So I'm breaking it down by removing any discolored bits and the skin, and see, you should be left with this nice white colored thing. It's also, like lemongrass, very, very tough and fibrous. So you're going to want to help out your food processor and your teeth by breaking it down a lot. Now, because galanga is quite expensive, that piece that I was showing you guys at the beginning cost about $5, and we only need 2 tablespoons of chopped galangal for this recipe. I always chop up the whole thing and freeze the excess for future recipes. That was a shallot that I was cutting, and these are kaffir lime leaves. I've seen these in grocery stores as well, but they might be a little hard to come by. I separate it from the vein and put it in the food processor along with my other paste ingredients. If you can't find kaffir lime leaf, a little bit of grated lime zest is actually a pretty decent substitute for that. So don't worry if you can't find kaffir lime leaf. Now, all of these ingredients, I'm going to do a preliminary pulse. This is not the entirety of the paste, but as I said, a lot of these ingredients are so tough and they're really hard to process that I'm just kind of giving it a head start, especially that lemongrass and that galangal. And here it is after the preliminary pulse. It's not quite perfectly pureed yet, but this is where we're at for now. And now I'm going to add some cilantro stems. It's okay if some of the leaves get in, but this is a great use for cilantro stems, and a lot of garlic. That's 6 cloves of garlic, and look how fast I'm chopping it. I'm such a good chef. Anyway, yeah, 6 cloves of garlic. Don't skimp on the garlic. That's really important. And add that to your mixture along with some salt. Season it, and to help it process a little bit better, and some fish sauce. If your husband were not deathly allergic to shellfish, you would be adding shrimp paste here. Paprika for color, and pulse a lot, and puree it a lot. This is going to take a few minutes, but it is worth it. In the end, you'll have this beautiful red curry paste. I almost said chili paste. It's kind of a chili paste. There's chili in it. It's so much better than the jarred stuff, you guys. Do not eat the jarred stuff. It's crap. Okay, so this is rendered duck fat. If you don't happen to have rendered duck fat, but you should because you're going to roast a duck for this recipe, you could use oil, but use rendered duck fat. And I'm putting in some fresh bird's eye chilies and some fresh chopped onion, and you're sweating that a little bit before adding the paste that you so painstakingly made. All of the paste, all of it goes in there. And you saute it for a couple minutes to bring out the loveliness before adding the coconut cream. So you want to make sure that the very first ingredient on your coconut cream or milk says coconut cream or milk and not extract. That's very important. So I'm adding about 2 cups of coconut cream here total. I was adding about a 1/4 cup at first just to kind of get it started, and then gradually adding in the rest. And it should make this lovely, creamy, thick curry sauce. Cover it, lower it, super, super, super low, and you want to simmer that very gently. About 5 minutes later, it'll look like this, and about 15 minutes later, it looks like this. If you were starting with raw pumpkin, you would have added it in sooner. Basically as soon as you added the coconut cream, but I'm using leftover roasted pumpkin, so I'm adding it now towards the end. You want to cook this curry sauce for about 20 minutes total, so that's why I added it at the 15-minute mark, just to kind of finish cooking through. It was slightly undercooked before I added it, and now the pumpkin is perfect. Now add the meat of a leftover roast duck that you happen to have lying around, because everybody has leftover roasted duck lying around. A cup of pineapple, a couple tablespoons of brown sugar, and stir it. And a cup of cherry or grape tomatoes. That might be one of my favorite parts of this dish. I don't know, everything is my favorite part of this dish. It's just so good. You just simmer that until the pineapple is heated through and the tomatoes are heated through. You don't want the tomatoes to fall apart, so be careful. And then a handful each of scallions and cilantro and Thai basil leaves, not Italian basil, Thai basil. Put the lid on, let it steam for a couple minutes, and there you have it. Beautiful, delicious, very exploding with flavor, duck pumpkin Thai red curry. This is just, it's so good. You just have to make it and eat it. It's delicious. Fresh squeeze of lime at the end, and yum, yum, yum. So this pumpkin chowder recipe my husband and I developed together a few years ago. These are all the ingredients you're going to need for it. 6 slices of bacon that I've chopped up into little pieces, about a clove of minced garlic, that's an onion chopped, and you've got a couple potatoes peeled and chopped, and a couple cups of leftover roasted cubed pumpkin. You can start with raw, of course, but I happen to have the roasted. Handful of fresh thyme from the garden or from the grocery store, a couple cups of roasted pumpkin puree, 3/4 cup of dried cherries or craisins, and salt, pepper to taste. And this is not yogurt, it is frozen homemade chicken broth. You need about 6 cups of chicken broth total, and I happen to have homemade, so I used that. You want to start by rendering the fat out of your bacon. So you want that on low, medium heat to get as much of the fat out of the bacon as possible. See how much fat has come out of that bacon. You do not want that in your soup. I mean, as delicious as bacon grease is, not for this soup. So you skim it off into your bacon fat mug that you keep in the fridge. Use this bacon grease to fry potatoes or kale. Delicious. Add your onions, and you want to sweat your onions with your bacon. So I give it a light stir, and then this is still on medium-low heat. Cover it and let it simmer in there in its own juices and sweat for a few minutes. Then it's translucent like that, and then you add the garlic. If you add the garlic sooner than that, it might burn, so that's why I add it after. I add the sprigs of thyme, some black pepper, my frozen gelatinous chicken broth slushy. Break it up with your spoon. Add the rest of the chicken broth that I microwaved, and the pumpkin puree. And, you know, just kind of incorporate that in until it incorporates. Might take a little while, but as Alton Brown says, your patience will be rewarded. And then after that is all combined, you add the potatoes, and you want to simmer this. This is boiling pretty rapidly. I turned the heat down and was stirring it to slow it down. You want to simmer it for basically until the potatoes are done. So I just take a potato out and test it for doneness. It was done, so I added my pumpkin. And again, if you were starting with raw pumpkin, add that when you add the potato. And then you'll know your soup is ready when your potatoes are nice and fork tender, and your pumpkin is nice and fork tender, and you know, these thyme sprig wood stuff, take those out. Those aren't very tasty. Add the cherries. You might think that's an odd addition, but it's great. It adds this tanginess to the soup and bursts of intense flavor whenever you hit a cherry, and it's just so good. Cup of cream, heavy cream please, makes it so delicious. Stir that lusciousness in, fish out any other thyme stems, season again with salt and pepper to taste, and you have a delicious autumny pumpkin-y soup. We fed it to some friends of ours when they were over, and they were really surprised. Like, they thought that it would taste weird, based off of all the strange flavor combinations, but believe me, this is a really, really good hearty pumpkin chowder for autumn. My husband loves ravioli. I love it too, but I don't love making it so much because it's a big process. It starts with paper towels and yogurt. Nope, it starts with homemade pumpkin puree that I'm keeping in a yogurt container, and I am spreading it on some paper towels. The reason why I'm doing this is that pumpkin puree has a lot of excess moisture in it that I do not want in my ravioli filling. So by spreading it on the paper towels like this and then pressing more paper towels on top of it for about a half hour, I'm going to extract a lot of that unwanted liquid. It's a little trick I learned from America's Test Kitchen. This is some ricotta cheese and some mozzarella cheese and a little tiny bit of garlic, and I'm pulsing it in my little mini chopper. I think I've used my mini chopper in like every single recipe in this video, by the way. Combine all the cheeses, and this is kind of how you'd make a normal ravioli: salt, pepper, cheeses. But now, the star ingredient. If you just peel it back like that, it kind of comes off the paper towel like a fruit roll-up. Add it to your cheeses and stir it in, and then it turns into this lovely little mixture. Cheesy pumpkin-y goodness. I have a video about making ravioli dough and forming ravioli from scratch. You can actually use like wonton wrappers if you want to, if you don't want to bother making your own pasta. So anyway, watch that other video on making ravioli because I show it in a little more detail how to form the ravioli and how to make your own pasta dough. Basically, I put a little dollop of the cheese mixture and then a little chunk of pre-roasted pumpkin, and using water, I seal first one side of the ravioli pouch, and then I go around and do one side and then the other side. And it's pretty laborious and time consuming. This is why I don't particularly like making ravioli. There is another way you can do it where you like have sheets of pasta and you like put a bunch of bits of cheese on it, then you put another sheet of pasta on top and then you cut it. I'm not very good at doing it that way though, so I do it that way, and that's why it takes forever and I don't like it. Anyway, make the sauce. It's a brown butter sauce. That was 3 tablespoons of butter, and you want to gently heat that so it doesn't burn, but you want it to brown. While you're making the sauce, boil your water for your ravioli. This is pepitas, which is the inside of pumpkin seeds, and you're just dropping the raviolis, and this is quite a few leaves of fresh sage that I've just julienned. You add that to your pepitas butter mixture. And you'll know the raviolis are done when they float. It only takes about 2-3 minutes. Fresh pasta doesn't take long to cook. And instead of draining this in a colander, I like to actually just scoop them out directly into my sauce pan with a slotted spoon, because otherwise they might break open if you dump them into a colander in the sink. And just lightly toss in the butter sauce and plate a little Parmesan cheese. And there you have it. Really classy, very difficult to make, but I think worth it occasionally. They're worth the effort. Pumpkin ravioli. I love how there's that little surprise in the center. You don't necessarily expect that there's going to be pumpkin in there, and you open it up and it's like, whoa, pumpkin. So yeah, pumpkin ravioli. Try it this autumn. So a little backstory on these 3 sisters tacos. It comes from a Native American practice of agriculture where they grow 3 vegetables, corn, squash, and beans together. And these crops are called the 3 sisters. The 3 crops benefit from each other because the corn gives the beans something to climb on, the beans add nitrogen to the soil, and the squash spreads along the ground, blocking the sunlight and helping prevent weeds. And I have to credit my husband with coming up with this idea. Tacos are a big part of our relationship, so it fits. The base is chicken. That's 2 chicken breasts roasted and shredded, and this is a spice mixture, 1 teaspoon each of cumin, salt, black pepper, chili powder, and coriander. 3 jalapenos, that's a lot of jalapeno. Half an onion, about 6 cloves of garlic, and these are 2 of our 3 sisters. We have some cubed pumpkin and some corn on a cookie sheet. These are some black beans. I happen to cook them. And these are the condiments. We're using some cotija cheese, some lime, cilantro, and onion. And I've added some oil to these vegetables, and I'm just salting them and also adding a little chili powder. I'm going to roast them in the oven to bring out some lovely flavors. So you saute, just sweat the jalapenos and the onions and the garlic in about a teaspoon of oil. Then you add your spice mixture and just saute that about 20-30 seconds, and then add in your leftover roasted shredded chicken breasts. Just stir it around. You really only need to heat through the chicken at this point. Isn't my husband handsome? So these are fresh tortilla dough balls because I'm making my own corn tortillas from scratch. You certainly don't have to do that. You can use store-bought tortillas, but I like tortillas from scratch. They're so much tastier. Check out my video on fish tacos. There should be a card popping up at the corner of the screen because I show in that video how to make them from scratch. Anyway, if you don't make them from scratch, just buy them. I am under the broiler roasting my corn and my squash, getting some nice color on that. And there they are, fresh out of the broiler. The corn looks lovely. I wish the squash had more color, but what can you do? And there you have it, your Three Sisters tacos spread. I like to put all the little components in their own little dishes so everybody gets to regulate how much of each sister or chicken they put in their tacos. And you start with a little bit of the chicken mixture, and then your three sisters join on the taco, and the condiments. I found actually, after I made these the first time, that the lime juice is best directly on the chicken mixture, not after the fact, but it was still delicious. Yeah, make these tacos. They're really nice as they fall out of my hand awkwardly.
Those were just some of the really cool savory recipes that you can make with pumpkin. There are, of course, so many other ways that you can use pumpkins. Get creative. Pretty soon in the near future, I'm going to do a similar compilation video for sweet recipes with pumpkin. Alternatives to the traditional pumpkin pie for Thanksgiving, although I do have a recipe for pumpkin pie as well, the video that I did a few years ago, as well as pumpkin cheesecake. There are over 1,000 subscribers now on this channel. Thank you very much for finding me and deciding that I'm worth watching. I should get the community tab pretty soon, so I will actually be able to communicate with you guys, not just on a video, and get to know you a little better. In the meantime, go ahead and add me on Facebook at Sarah K Loves Food, and I tend to post pictures of the food that I cook as well. I mean to eventually put more recipes on there, and or most likely get a food blog to put all the recipes up there in detail with the calorie amounts and the price amounts, like the rough price amounts of all of the ingredients as well. Anyway, thanks again for sticking around and choosing this channel, and I'll see you next Friday.